Welcome to episode number 9 of the Colombian Soccer Show, and I get happier every time that number increases. We get to 7, we get to 8, we get to 9, because it means Colombia keep advancing in the FIFA World Cup, and we'll talk about this round of 16 matchup coming up today against the Swiss. Exciting times for Colombia. My name is Juan Pimiento. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, here on Facebook, here on YouTube for our full preview of this upcoming matchup. Don't forget that we're also present across all social media, and that if you don't want to miss a single episode, a single video, we just released one actually, a little bit of history between Colombia and the Swiss. So if you follow us on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, you get to see a little bit of a reel talking about the previous time that the Swiss faced Colombia, also on U.S. soil in 1994, the group finale for Colombia at least, sadly in what was a very forgettable campaign in 94. Colombia won that game. We talk about that in that reel on Instagram, on TikTok, so make sure to follow us, the Colombian Soccer Show. And of course, right here on Facebook, like our page, like this video. If you're watching on YouTube, do the same. Please, thank you so much for everybody who's watched us, the hundreds of people who've watched us so far. Thank you to everyone who subscribed as well. Please, if you haven't done so, subscribe so you don't miss a single episode of the show, because we'll go on as Colombia go on, and then after the World Cup, we'll have plenty of things to talk about, no matter what happens with Colombia. And of course, don't forget that you can join us after the game on Tuesday, right here live, so you don't miss a single thing that happens after the game, win or lose. Hopefully win, as always, as Colombia face the Swiss again in this round of 16 matchup in Canadian territory. Colombia, I gotta check this and somebody can correct me. Colombia might be the only team that's had to play across all three countries, right? Because Colombia started in Mexico, played in the US, and now they are here in Vancouver, British Columbia, in Canadian territory to face a tough matchup. I mean, they're all going to be tough from now on. But the Swiss, just like their knives, very complex rival. And I'm going to be very curious about how Colombia faced this one. So let's talk a little bit about the Swiss, because it's very much up in the air which Switzerland team Colombia are going to face. I'm going to refer to the last lineup for Colombia, or for the Swiss, as they faced Algeria in the previous round, because as of a few hours ago, the last training session, he was injured, he was injured, he was injured, this guy is injured, and then, as the page refreshed on me, of course, there's up to 5 injuries for the Swiss. And if you saw the guys that I was circling, this one is the one that's going to be the key, because he might not play tomorrow. And this guy's been the best player, Johan Manzambi. 3 goals so far in this World Cup, only 20 years old, and a nightmare down the middle of the field where Colombia struggled against Ghana. So, I mean, I'm going to just talk like a fan for a second, if you will, if you allow me the indiscretion, I guess, in this forum. Are the stars aligning for Colombia? Again? Because up to 5 injuries, and again, Manzambi being one of them, it really downgrades the risk of the Swiss. And that's not to discount, again, the fact they have Granit Xhaka and Manuel Akanji and Colbel in goal, Bril Mbolo, Dan Ndoye on the wing. I mean, they got plenty of quality. But for Manzambi and 4 others, Ruben Vargas being one of them, who scored 2 goals also in this World Cup, for them to potentially either be out or have to come off the bench but not be 100%, that's a humongous relief for Colombia. We don't wish injury upon anybody, but it's a huge break for Colombia, if especially they don't have to face Switzerland's toughest player, their biggest matchup nightmare in Manzambi. Now, what do Colombia have to do then? They have to win. Colombia must win. If this is the case, there's no excuse for Colombia not to be back in a quarterfinal after 12 years since the magical run in Brazil 2014. So, I don't know what kind of Swiss team to expect. It's going to be hard to analyze, and I'm pretty sure not just for me. I'm sure that Nestor Lorenzo's coaching staff is also having to do a little bit of extra legwork heading into this one. Luckily for Colombia, there's nothing on the injury front. We've talked about fitness, we talked about stamina. I am concerned still about Jefferson Lerma because he looked very, very shaky from a fitness standpoint against Ghana. And that was the matchup that I wanted to highlight before the news broke about Manzambi because that's the matchup that I was most scared of. Switzerland are great on the break. Switzerland are a very dynamic team. Down the middle or down the wings. Colombia have faced mostly teams that are very dangerous down the wings, except for Ghana, who were able to create most of their danger down the center, mainly because Lerma looks so sluggish defending the Ghanaian offense in the round of 32. If Manzambi was fit, he'd be my number one worry. Him not being fit, again, it's a huge relief for Colombia and for Lerma. I'm expecting him to play. I don't think Lorenzo at this stage is going to make any changes to the 11. When why would you? It's 4 victories or 3 victories in 4 games at this point with the same 11 almost, really. But 10 out of the 11 players have played or started every single game at this point. Colombia, the only absence is John Cordova. We know he's out for the rest of the tournament. Injured his adductor within 8 minutes of the game against Ghana. But it's mostly about fitness. We know also there's a cold going around in the Colombia base camp. James was suffering the effects of the cold before Ghana, which is why he only lasted 45 minutes. I believe Jefferson Campas spoke on it to Colombian media saying, yeah, this is a thing happening, and I'm paraphrasing, but we're not too concerned. If it's a cold, okay. It's something that Lorenzo will have to deal with. But as far as injuries, clean bill of health, except for the Cordova situation. So again, what can I tell you guys? I mean, I know the Swiss, again, very dynamic. They can attack in multiple ways. Bril Bolo is a very dynamic forward, very dangerous presence for Sanchez and Lukumi, but judging by the level of play we've seen from Sanchez and Lukumi, not just in the previous game against Ghana, but throughout the tournament, they've been amazing. They've been stellar. And they've been improving. As the team has also been improving, I feel like, different aspects of their game throughout the tournament as the tournament goes on. So I trust that Sanchez and Lukumi can neutralize Embolo the way they did Cristiano Ronaldo and Bakambu and Wisa for the Congo. And same thing with Jordan Ayew, the captain and center for Ghana. I'm not so concerned about that. The wings we know have been problematic at times for Colombia. Munoz and Mojica did a much better performance, much better job against Ghana, defending against the likes of Semenyo and Iñaki Williams, which were not an easy matchup. They held up pretty well. So can they replicate that? Because even in the absence of Ndoye and Vargas, we know that Swiss or the Swiss still have some quality to be able to display down the wings. As far as offense, that's another, to me, question mark, right? Because how will Lorenzo approach this on offense? The Swiss defend with a mid block to a low block, and they have a very strong midfield. Granit Xhaka and Remo Freuler, they're very solid, Xhaka especially. And they're a team that gets organized very quickly. So I don't know how Lorenzo would approach it. To me, it's one of two ways. And it's going to sound very simple, right? Very basic, but I think it can make a difference. Colombia are a team that, for most of the games, and we've seen them, especially the first halves, they tend to get the ball back and they end up just playing possession. They tend to slow down a little bit, have the ball, try to break down a low block. But with the Swiss, it's going to be tough, as it's been with pretty much every team so far. Yeah, every team. I was going to say except the Congo, but no, every team's posed a challenge on the low block. So will Lorenzo then switch it maybe and play more of what we see in the second half, in the first half, and have Colombia try to counter and try to beat the Swiss to the block, right? Try to avoid the Swiss organizing, taking advantage of Luis Diaz, and how much of a fitness he's going to have in this game because it's only 3 days rest and he looked tired before. John Arias and even Munoz himself. I'm assuming Luis Suarez is going to start up top. So those four guys, three guys, can they take advantage of the breaks? I think it's going to be down to the coach, right? And what he does. And also, of course, the opponent, because if the Swiss push their lines forward, then, I mean, Colombia have to take advantage of those spaces. And Colombia have to take advantage of any opportunities because last time against Ghana, we pressed the importance of finishing. And they did. And look at the difference that it made because, yes, Colombia only won 1-0. And yes, Luis Diaz had more goals disallowed in the game against Ghana. But the importance of scoring early, or at least in the first half, and taking the lead to halftime in this kind of playoff games, do or die games, is huge because Colombia were able to play more relaxed, more in control, without so much of the pressure of we can't beat the low block, we can't get the ball in. And that builds up. The anxiety builds up. I trust also that Colombia will be playing another home game because, I mean, it's not the US, but Colombia travel. And I'm pretty sure that the Colombian Canadian community, and if you are going to be at the game, if you are a Colombian Canadian, a Colombian in Canada, let me know. Comment below this video and let me know how you feel and let me know how it goes too after the game later today. How was the experience? Because I expect, again, for the stadium to be another just sea of yellow with some red, of course, because the Swiss have their fans as well. But play up to that number 12 player, right? The impulse, the encouragement, the emotional push of our fan base. But I think to me, again, it's a very difficult game to analyze because there's so much uncertainty on the injury front. How much can Luis Suarez do? Luis Suarez has been mostly about sacrifice, right? Especially on defense. I raved about his performance defensively against Ghana, how much he fought, how physical he was, despite being undersized compared to Ghana center backs. It didn't matter because he fought like a pit bull for every single ball. It was amazing to watch. He's gonna have to put another effort like that. Can he last the 90 minutes with such a physical demand out of this game? We have the Cucho Hernandez. Cucho Hernandez will be able, of course, to sub in if Luis Suarez is out of fitness. So Colombia have their own alternatives on the bench for them to be able to dip into. Juanfer Quintero, another one, who had an amazing performance in only about 27 minutes, or 17 minutes, as you say. I wish it was 27. Boy, it would have been even better. But in 17 minutes, impeccable passing record, connected every pass, the clarity, the directness, the accuracy, the creativity that we know and love was there. And against this team, I think Quintero is going to be of the utmost importance, depending, of course, of when James is out of gas, when Lorenzo makes the change. Can Quintero replicate the performance from Ghana? That would be great, especially if the game's tight. And I anticipate this game is going to be tight. I hope it doesn't. Like I said before, I want to be able to get an early lead and be able to take it a little bit easier, right? Especially because if you live in the US, this game is during work hours for a lot of us. I'm not taking a day off, but I'll be watching at least on the side. So we're going to be dealing with a lot of us Colombians who will be working and watching the game. So the more we can do to mitigate that stress for the players, for all of us, the better. The better for sure. So we'll see what happens. I mentioned the last president, right? It was 2-0 in 94. Maybe we can do it again. We'll see what happens. I think the Swiss, again, are going to put up a fight. I wouldn't be surprised at all if this game goes to overtime. I really wish it doesn't. Because if Colombia have enjoyed something so far is that their games don't stretch too long. And Argentina, for example, had to go to extra time. And Egypt have to put a long effort throughout their World Cup campaign. We're talking about the two possible rivals should Colombia win against the Swiss. And they'll be playing each other before Colombia play the Swiss tomorrow. So we'll know exactly who Colombia are going to face in a potential quarterfinal. And I know we've done this. All of us have done this. You better admit it because we have. We've all played bracketology and we're all fantasizing about a rematch with Argentina. Don't lie. You're looking at me right now. You've thought of this and you're as excited as I am at the prospect of a rematch against Argentina and the possibility of Colombia exacting revenge and getting those guys out of here. Trust me, that would be a dream scenario. It's Saturday night. It's the quarterfinal. It's Argentina. It's a party. It's going to be a party. But before we get there, we have to beat the Swiss. So if we want that fantasy matchup, let's get the W tomorrow. Again, up to 5 players with injury concern who might be either out or have their involvement reduced, their playtime reduced because of their injury problems. So this is it. Colombia have a great chance, and I think they had a great chance before the injuries because Colombia have shown that they can win in multiple ways in this World Cup, which is key and is very encouraging because that was a concern I had coming into the World Cup. And they proved me wrong. And I'll be the first one to admit, Nestor Lorenzo's proved me wrong so far. Let's keep it going. And let's go to a quarterfinal because to me, the bar is the quarterfinal. I think if Colombia lose tonight, it's a failure because we set the bar in Brazil. Anything lower than that, it's a failure in general. But again, for the level of play this team has shown, Colombia have earned the right to put themselves in the top 8 and even beyond. But they got to get it done. And they have a big chance to do so tonight against the Swiss. So, with that being said, let me know what you think about this game. Comment your predictions, your thoughts. What do you think of the Swiss? What do you think about all the injury history? And also, if you're watching us right now, make sure to join us after the game is over. It'll be a little bit earlier, but I'll be live here with you guys, Facebook and YouTube. So we recap all that's happening in Vancouver. Hopefully a Colombia win, hopefully a celebration and the anticipation of a quarterfinal in the World Cup. Let's go for it. Join me after the game for the recap. Make sure to also get in contact with us at the email right below if you have any questions, anything you want to tell us, any feedback. That is our email, of course, right there on screen. And don't forget, Facebook, like our page, YouTube, subscribe to our page so you get notified as soon as we are live and the recap also is uploaded. You'll know right away so you don't miss it. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on TikTok. We have plenty of content, reels coming up. Thank you to everybody, the thousands and thousands who watched our videos on Instagram and also on TikTok, to everybody who's following us, everybody who's been commenting, everybody participating. That's the whole point of this. The Colombian Soccer Show is for you to join me and to create a community of Colombian fans, English-speaking Colombian fans, to join, talk about all things Colombian soccer. So make sure again to join us and follow us on X, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and also on TikTok. On that note, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you to recap the game after the game is over. We'll see you later.